All right, we're rolling, Justin. So, are you ready? Perfect. So, let's start with, can you tell me what problem do you solve for a company?
Sure. So I focus mainly in business or corporate process strategy, project management, and implementation. Those are sort of the three areas that I focus in the most. And really, what I have been able to do is go into an organization that need some help with their cross-functional activities within their departments and sort of help guide initiatives with whether it's software implementation or process implementation, also helping them define business processes that'll help increase efficiency and productivity and quality, and then sort of spearhead those projects from a project management standpoint. And a lot of times I help sort of train people within their organization to help sort of sustain them going forward so that my involvement can sort of retract. So that's what I do mainly.
Right. Can you give me an example, a tangible example of a project you've done in the past in this niche?
Sure, perfect. So in the past, one of the very first projects I did, it was probably one of my favorite ones. I was working for Pirelli Tire North America, and they were using some pretty archaic processes, and they had a lot of siloed things going on within the organization where departments were having a hard time communicating and getting data and information between themselves. So we implemented a process or software solution called Wind Shuttle, which is a plugin for SAP. And I was the project manager. So I was working for them full time, but they also hired me as a consultant part time to spearhead this project and implementation. I had an opportunity to work with all of the departments within Pirelli Tire. I got a chance to go to Milan, Italy, and work with those people there, and just sort of took some old business processes that were very manual with a lot of human error and created some automation using the Wind Shuttle plugin. We were able to create some automation and speed up efficiency, and we were able to create an environment where our people were able to be more productive and more proactive with our clients versus being reactive to issues that were being brought, on a daily basis. So that was one of the very first uh, opportunities that I had to do this. So
That's amazing. So,
yeah.
tell me, what's the hardest part about your work?
Oh man, the hardest part about my work, generational gaps. um, we're in a really unique time. I think you have a lot of the older generation who, in their lifetime, a lot of things have changed. Most business processes, when they got started, were very manual, right? And technology has completely changed the scope of how we do business. And then the cloud came, and the cloud technology and software as a service became a thing. And the newer generation has really adopted that. That's the way that we know how to do things. And trying to bridge that gap between those generational ideologies has been a challenge. It is it's difficult to bring some of the older styles of doing business, which there are a lot of quality philosophies there that don't need to be lost, and to make it make sense to both sides of that fence and bring them together in unison is probably the biggest challenge.
I think I can understand that. Okay, so what made you go from working as a full-time employee to working as a consultant?
Sure. So I have 6 children, and life, um, my respect for time, my time became different. I started to realize the value of my time was much more than I would ever get paid on a W-2 salary. There is no monetary value that's worth my time. So, with that, as a consultant, I have more control over how much time I'm willing to give in return for payment. That's sort of where I went with it. I wanted a little more control, a little more flexibility on how I allocate the limited time that I have on this earth. I knew that I wanted to give more time to my family and my children, so that is the number one reason why I chose to do what I'm doing.
Love that. And can tell me, how did you find your first client?
Well, it's interesting. I didn't find my first client, so it was kind of weird. Like I said, the very first time was with Pirelli. I was already working there, but they approached me um, about the position as to take on this additional project, and I refused at first because I was a W-2 employee and it was not in my job description, and I wanted to be compensated fairly. And they were pretty adamant that they wanted me to take this on, so they asked me to put together a consulting contract, and that's how it happened. Now, to be fair, I didn't. That's not when my consulting career took off. I did that job, I did that project, and I didn't do it anymore. I went back to being a W-2 employee for a while, but it was always in the back of my head. I'm like, man, I could do this. So when I decided to go back into consulting, what I did is I put together my skill sets. What am I really good at? And from coming from the corporate world and being in the part of the hiring process, I knew what hiring managers or what CEOs or C-suite people were going to be looking for. So I structured my, and I don't call it a resume, I call it a marketing package, because you have to market yourself, right? And I structured my marketing package in a way that would appeal to directors and C-suite people, and give them, kind of key triggers or key metrics that would make them interested in talking to me about how I could help their organizations. Um, and that's still, to this day, that's how I approach it. I don't approach it as a resume. I approach it as my marketing package. So um, that's sort of the story. And just to kind of lead into how I'm getting clients now, same same way. I use Upwork. I use LinkedIn heavily. Luckily, I have started to gain references from current and previous people that I've worked with, which has been really nice. Um, One of the other things that I do is one of the big ones that I landed recently was not looking for a contract or consultant. They were actually looking for a full-time project manager. Um, I saw some opportunity based on the way that they worded their job description. And I put together a proposal for them as a consultant and explained to them, I understand that you are looking for a full-time employee. My schedule doesn't accommodate that currently. Here's how I operate, and here's how I think I can help your organization in this capacity. And it led to a conversation between myself and the individual, which was really great. And it turns out that I was able to lock that down on a consulting and contractual basis. So, and that was from an Indeed post that I found. So I think that you can really go about finding consulting clients as in a traditional way, just like you're looking for a normal job. The difference is how you piece that marketing piece together for yourself and how you present it to them. I think there's value in offering anybody looking for a W-2 employee an option to bring you on as a contractor, because if you can show them how valuable and how beneficial it is to their bottom line and the value that you can bring, 9 times out of 10, they're going to prefer that. They just don't know that yet. So, because they've never even thought about doing it, right? So, yeah, I use a lot of traditional methods. Don't let me get too long-winded here because I'll talk forever. But one of the other things I know, I spoke with a couple of people in the group about this, but I use I'm not a cold call type of person. I'm not a cold call person because in my experience in sales, people don't have time, right? They don't respond well to cold calls. I always lead with an email, and I've got some sort of templates that I use and sort of a specific approach that I use. But when I find somebody on LinkedIn and I find ways to get past the gatekeepers or the people that are going to prevent me from getting to the decision maker. I always try to lead and be respectful of their time, but I'm very direct about what I'm trying to accomplish, and I think they appreciate that. You know, your consulting pitch should never take more than 5 or 10 minutes. If you can't convince them in 5 or 10 minutes that you can provide value, um, you're probably not focused enough on what you're trying to do for an organization. And I think that if you can, in 5 or 10 minutes, because that's about how long you're going to have their attention for, if you can convince them that they need you, you'll have no issues landing clients that way. So
I think this is really, really helpful. So one final question for you. What does consulting enable for you outside of your work life?
oh man, so I'm a baseball coach. I
Wow.
I'm the president of our youth little league, and I coach 3 baseball teams in the fall season. So it allows me to do that. It allows me to spend plenty of time with my kids. I have kids that play. Um, I have hobbies as well. I'm a big time gamer, so it gives me the ability to have a little free time to do that. The other thing is I I have the ability to shift my work environment. So while I'm in this office every day, I don't have to do the same types of projects every day. And I'm the type of person throughout my career, I've done a lot of different things. I've worked in the construction industry, I've worked in the manufacturing industry, the franchising world, and I'm always looking for new challenges and ways to put my skills to the test. And this allows me the ability to do that. It allows me to, if I'm not super familiar with a specific industry, I can go find a client in that industry and take my chance and shoot my shot and see how I can do that. Um, the other thing is continued education. Um, Not in a traditional sense. Nothing wrong with that. I absolutely believe in if you want to go get a degree, which I've done, do that. But we're in the age of the internet. Anything you want to know is right at your fingertips. It's just having the initiative and the ambition to want to ask those questions and think about things outside the box that will help bolster your skill set. And whether that's a Udemy course or a Coursera course, or maybe that's just hopping into communities and having open discussions and bouncing ideas off of each other. This community is great for that. Um, that's the other opportunity that consulting does. It gives you the ability to customize your ongoing learning and education.
Love that. Okay. Thank you so much for doing this, Justin. I'm gonna be respectful of your time here because I know that we're 1 minute
You're
past
fine,
the
buddy.
clock.
You're
So
fine, man.